Good morning, friends. Today I'm going to start with a poem in class 12th standard. The name of the poem is My Mother at 66. In 12th standard we have two books, Flamingo and Vistas. In Flamingo we have 6 poems and this is poem number 1. My Mother at 66 is a poem composed by Kamala Das. Kamala Das is an Indian poet and she has expressed her emotions, her feelings for her mother. This poem brings an important message and it says that aging is a natural process. A person has to grow old. With growing old, the person has to meet his death as well. Now in this poem, the poet hasn't exactly mentioned what the problem was with her mother, but as we presume that her mother, who was of 66 years, and she might have been suffering from some kind of ailments, because in Indian contexts, 66 years, it's 66 years is not a that big age that a person dies, but still we presume that her mother might have been suffering with some kind of ailment or problem. One thing which is sure, that her mother was on the verge of death. Now the poet's conflict. She doesn't want to leave her mother alone, but she has to go. She has to move on. Now the poet has beautifully presented this mental conflict, how she feels looking at her mother. At the same time, we just feel the helplessness of the poet when she has to leave. With this introduction, I'll just start the poem with the text. Okay, now we'll analyze the poem from the text. Now it starts with driving from her parents' home to Cochin last Friday morning. The first term which you need to take care of is the word driving. That means the poet was driving the car herself. And it was last Friday morning and she was on the way to airport because she had to go to Cochin. Now what she saw, she observes, she saw her mother beside me. That means the poet was driving the car to the airport and her mother was sitting beside her in the car on the passenger seat. Now she observed something about her mother and she says that I saw my mother beside me doze. Look at this word doze. This doze is almost sleeping. Not on a very deep kind of sleeping, but she was sleeping. Now she observed that her mother, who was sitting beside her, and she was sleeping with open mouth. So open mouth, her face. Now when she observed the face of her mother, her face ashen. Look at this word ashen. Ashen, the word has come from the word ash. Now it is light grayish in color. Now this is exactly the color of the face of a dead person. That is what she says. That her face like that, ashen like that of a corpse. Corpse is a dead person, a dead body. Now if you look at the face of a dead person and the person's face loses all the colors. It's almost white or light grayish color like that of the ash. So what she observed? She observed that her mother was sleeping with open mouth and her face resembled the face of a dead person. The first thought that came in her mind was that probably her mother was dead. Although she was not dead, but what the poet thought. So, and realized with pain. Now this realization, she realized with pain that probably the mother was dead, although she was not dead, but she just felt the pain of the death of her mother, that she looked as old as she looked. Well, she looked as old. That means she was old enough to die, or what the poet presumes. So she was old enough to die. So she might die any moment. If she hasn't died now, then she may die in next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days. I mean, this is what she believes. So, but soon, right after this, she just wanted to come out of this feeling of the death of her mother. The poet's mother, she looked old enough to die any moment, but the poet wanted to put that thought away. So, but soon put that thought away. Now that thought here refers to the thought of the probable death of her mother. So in order to put that thought away, she looked out at young trees sprinting. Now she looked out of the window of the car and she looked at young trees sprinting. Let's concentrate on the word sprinting. Sprinting word has come from the word sprinter. Sprinter means fast runner. Now this is an imagery that once you travel in a car and if you look out of the window, then you find trees running back at a very fast speed like sprinters. Now here the young trees, it has been used as a metaphor. Young trees, a metaphor for youthful days of life. Now the poet wants to say that youthful days of life go on, passing on very fast. And then she also looked at the young children, merry children. Merry means happy. So she also looked at children spilling out of their homes. They were coming out of their homes and they were very happy. This reminded the poet of the age of childhood, which happens to be the happiest period of a human life. Now in childhood, the child just lives a carefree life without any worries, without any tension. Now this shows that I just talked about the 3 stages of life: childhood, youthful age and the old age. Now this poem talks about all the 3 stages in a reverse order. So if we talk about childhood, a child remains very happy, and especially small children, when they come out of their homes, they are very happy because they're out to play outside. So they get this happiness. So she looked at the young kids sprinting and merry children, happy children spilling out of their homes. But after the airport security check, now she had to leave her mother outside and she entered into the airport. She went through the process of security check, and after the security check, she found her mother standing a few yards away. She was standing at a distance of few yards, and she again looked at the face of her mother. So the poet looked at her mother, who was standing a few yards away, and she again looked at her face. So I looked at her face and it was wan. The wan word it means colorless, having no color. Pale. Pale is light yellowish kind of, almost colorless. Now she looked at her mother's face, it was colorless, it was of light yellow color, as a late winter's moon. Look at the word as and like, these are the 2 words which are used for simile, comparing 2 things. In the previous stanza, the poet has used simile when she compared her mother's face to that of a corpse. That was again the case of simile. Another case of simile here, when she compares her mother's face to the late winter's moon. Let's try and understand this late winter's moon, or in moon in late winter. In India, generally, February end is the late winter, when the winter starts receding and then finally the spring is on its way. Now, during the midwinter, the moon is not at all visible because the sky is covered by the fog, dense fog. Now, when it's a late winter, then there are partial fogs in the sky. And in that partial fog, the moon doesn't appear to be as bright as it appears during the summers, when the sky is absolutely clear. So we just get a very faded kind of image of the moon, slight yellowish. Now her face resembles the same. So she compares her mother's face to late winter's moon, And there is another aspect of this comparison also, that late winter means the person is approaching his end. So she was in the late winter of her life and she was about to die. This is what the poet wants to say through this line, this phrase. And then felt that, now there is another phrase, old familiar ache. Now this phrase has three words, old familiar ache. Let's start with ache. Ache means pain, feeling the pain in the heart. Now this was the pain which the poet was familiar with. That means she has faced the similar pain earlier also. How much earlier? Old. So this was a pain which the poet was aware since her childhood. That is why she has mentioned childhood's fear. And now just try to understand what this childhood's fear stands for. Now just imagine a child of about 3-4 years. Now the child goes out with her mother to any public place or fair or anywhere else. Now, the moment the mother goes out of her sight, the child starts crying. What does she feel? She feels that probably she has lost her mother. Now the poet says that I have felt the similar pain when I was a child. Whenever my mother used to go out of my sight, I used to feel the pain of separation, believing that I have lost my mother. Now the similar pain she was feeling at that moment. Now this time she was feeling the pain, thinking that probably she was going to lose her mother forever. So she was feeling that old familiar ache. But all I said was, see you soon, Amma. Now this is a very particular kind of statement. Now you go and meet someone. You know that the person is about to die after a day or two, or after a day or three, or after next week or something like that. Now when you go and meet that person, you always say, well, you will be fine and I'll come later and I'll meet you, I'll see you then. Now the same thing the poet is saying. She's just trying to create a kind of assurance in her mother that she was not going to die very soon. So she said, see you soon, Amma. That was a kind of assurance that you will remain alive, you will remain good, healthy, till the time I come back next. So a kind of assurance she wants to create, but she's aware of the situation. She can create assurance for her mother, but how can she create assurance for herself? So for that, what she did? She said, all I did was smile and smile and smile. Look at the word smile. I'll come to the figure of speech part later on. Let me explain it first. She said, all I did was smile. She smiled to console herself. She smiled at her helplessness. She knew that she was unable to stay there with her mother. She had to leave anyway. What was what kind of business did she have? It's not given in the poem, but I'm sure things would have been very important for her. So in order to show her help, this happens quite often. When we just feel that we can't do anything about the situation, we just smile at ourselves. Look at me, look how helpless I am. I can't do anything. So this is the same feeling the poet was having. She said, see you soon, Amma, in order to assure her mother that she would remain alive by the time she would come back next. Next, she smiled at the end to console herself, to assure herself. She just expresses a kind of wish, hope that her mother doesn't die so soon. Now this word smile has been repeated thrice. Now there is a figure of speech which is known as repetition. So this comes under repetition, and we use repetition to put emphasis on a particular word or a particular feeling or sentiment. Now the poet wants to put emphasis on the word smile. That's why it has been repeated thrice. Since this poem is in free verse, that means there is no rhyme scheme in the poem. I've told you about all the 4 figure speech. First, action like that of a corpse, that is simile. Second, this one, as a late winter's moon. This is again the case of simile. young trees sprinting metaphor compared to youthful days of life, and the last but not the least is the word smile, which is used as repetition. So this is all about this poem. Guys, hope you like this poem. So you will get the details of my contact and everything in my description. And please do like and share my channel so that you get to know about my next videos about the lessons of not only 12th, but I'll be putting up the videos of the lessons from 9 to 12th. I started with this lesson. This is my first video, and I hope you definitely like the video. Thank you so much.